Hello and welcome back to the Micro MBA from the University of Chester. Trevor, hi, how are you doing?
I'm very well, thank you. Good morning, Alex. Good morning, our audience. From wherever you are. Good morning.
So, Trevor,
Um,
this in session 7, this is the penultimate session, the first one of 2025. And today we're going to be talking about marketing with Professor Morven. So it's going to be an exciting session, isn't it?
Absolutely, being a marketer myself, so I'm really looking forward to that. And again, doing that in the midst of being below 0 degree Celsius here today in Chester. Really cold, nice, and snowing. So good.
It's been beautiful, actually, hasn't it?
Absolutely.
Particularly somewhere like Chester is a stunning city anyway, but in the snow and the frost, it looks incredibly clear, doesn't it? And very
Yeah.
sort of picturesque, doesn't it? Which is it's beautiful.
Yeah.
So, Trevor, as usual, we've got a couple of things to talk through. Usual business of what's going on at university before we introduce our speaker for today. But first of all, Trevor, just wanted to wish yourself and all of our audience a happy new year from everyone at the University of Chester. I think it's still acceptable to say that, Trevor. I don't know.
Absolutely, it's still very new. I think we could say that all through January. I'm sure we could say that. So happy New Year, everyone, and happy New Year to you too, and a blessed one, Alex.
Some people would say that the first 10 days of January it's acceptable. So we're just within that boundary. So yeah. So happy New Year to everybody. And yeah, and welcome to session 7 on marketing. Say, Trevor, it's been an incredible time for University of Chester and for the business school particularly, hasn't it? Winning Business School of the Year, Educate North, the Northern Business School of the Year, but also the UK's Business School of the Year in THE. So it's been an incredible time, hasn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. And just know that, again, like I always say, with accolades, with awards, with prizes, it just tells us something. We're doing the right thing. And again, it's a challenge for us to beat our best. The competition is us. So we have to make sure that we continue to do what we're doing, deliver value for our students, deliver value for our staff members. And at the same time, who knows? We just keep it. Okay, so we want to sustain it. We want to be able to do better than what we've always done, and that's the
Yeah.
drive.
And this idea of kind of getting future focused, with our award-winning university, I mean, this is crucial, isn't it? I think if you're thinking about, education, study, doing a degree, a master's, or a doctorate, you're thinking about your future, you're building for your future, aren't you? And I do think at University of Chester, we do have that credential, that track record. To be able to be future focused, and I think even the micro MBA is a good example of it, of that as well, isn't it? Of thinking about some of these key topics and some of the nuances within that, but also what the implications of those are now and in the future as well.
Yeah, and I think that's something not just for the university, but even our curriculum. You see, for example, if you look at the MBA program, our main MBA program, we have master classes, and our master classes, we do develop them all future focused. And then we ensure that when we bring in speakers, we bring in academics, researchers, experts in industry to deliver our masterclass sessions. They're all future focused, and that's the whole idea. We want to ensure that we're able to build responsible leaders who will be able to deal with situations in future. The past we already know. Currently, yes, we're dealing with things, but we need to plan ahead. What does the future hold? How do we deal with issues that might come up in the future? And that's something that informs our curriculum a lot. And indeed, every member of the team tend to be aware of that, and we do bring that into our classroom sessions, our master classes, our discussions with students, the way we plan and do things. And that's quite exciting, and it's a good one, a good practice.
Yeah, definitely. And obviously, in the end, we say that, we're not just trying to prepare, students, graduates for the jobs that exist right now, but even the ones of the future as well, because we know the world is shifting quite rapidly. Even at the start of a 1-year program, the world can look quite different afterwards. So that's really important to it. The future is obviously is critical, and employability and allowing people to take the next steps is critical. So, and we hope the micro MBA will help people on that journey as well. So over to you, Trevor.
Yes, again, very good. And that just leaves me with the last word I want to say on that, which is the future proof. So we make sure that, yes, we future proof you, and that's the whole idea. Yes, for the micro MBA, just to let audience and viewers know, It's still not too late for you to register. We still got this session, and we'll got one more session, which is going to be the last session. So by all means, so long as you can engage with the learning materials we've provided, go ahead, tell your friends, tell your network, let them register. They can still register, get on with the engage, participate, be involved directly. The much you can do, get on with the quiz as well. Get the first quiz done. As soon as the second quiz is out there, get it done. And that automatically qualifies you to be able to get that certification. But again, it's not just about the certification. It's a taster session that just helps to expand your horizons, your learning, what you know. And at the same time, that will help you to also have a think back to say, all right, what do I really need to do to be able to enhance my skills, my competencies, and all of that. So by all means, please feel free to join us. It's still ongoing, so it's not too late for you to join.
Brilliant. Thank you, Trevor. And of course, a big hook for the micro MBAs is getting the certificate, isn't it? So quiz 1 is available for people to have a go at now if you've not done so already. The people that have done really well with it, Trevor. They've been getting nines and tens out of 10, which is amazing. So obviously people have, watching and engaging, and we've got clearly some very smart people on this micro MBA. Quiz 2 will come along after the final session, which is next week. And then once you've completed both questions, and I think like a little exit survey as well, then you'll be able to generate this digital certificate. You can take that certificate and use it how you like. You can put it onto your LinkedIn profile, etc. So these things that accumulate in these little things, Trevor, cumulatively are really important, aren't they? I think in terms of the next steps and employability and so forth.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's just something we can't even tell enough the importance. But again, I can tell you, networking, becoming part of the Chester family, which is something else, the business school of the year. So it's the right time for you to get on with this and get signed up and engage with it. So for those of you who've not yet looked at some of the recordings, please by all means go back, look at them. The few, not too much time is going to take. So just get on with that, and please get on with the quiz.
Okay, it's a great question here from Simran saying, I've missed my first quiz and a few live sessions. How can I access it? Well, that's a great question. First of all, Simran, it doesn't matter if you've missed a couple of the live sessions, because all of the recordings are on the learning management system, and they're also accessible through any of the channels that we stream to. So that's LinkedIn, YouTube, or International Centres Facebook. And again, it doesn't matter if you've missed the quiz as well. The quiz is still open for you to do that. So if you've registered already, you should be able to get into the learning management system. Let's just have another quick look at that. So the learning management system is just on pregem.chesterace.uk. If you've registered already, you should be able to access that. And obviously, if you haven't used the lost password function, you should see then, Simran, the access to all the sessions, the recordings, and the quiz 1, and then quiz 2 will come back later. So the short answer, Simran, is you can get it through the learning management system. Just get yourself access to that. All right, so it's a really timely, useful question that was. And just a little bit of business from what's going on at the university, Trevor. Obviously, in the new year, we are gearing up for new cohorts of our students coming in from all over the world, joining in the January-February intake, and organising lots of pre-arrival events and planning some brilliant induction events and so forth. So there's sessions on budgeting to visa support. Massive list there. It's an exciting time, isn't it, both for us and students joining us, Trevor?
Yes, absolutely. So I've been receiving loads of emails and providing feedback, providing them advice, guidance, and I'm looking forward to having the students, and they're all coming soon next month. So ready for the induction and all the socialization process, which is really good. And I think we're going to have a mix of really, really good students with very good backgrounds, and I think it's going to be an exciting time. So I'm really looking forward to having them around, and hopefully they'll join soon. And it's interesting that even in the business school, we're expecting hundreds of students across all our master's program, even the 2 years masters. And you won't believe it that the 2 years masters, I think there's an opportunity for us to talk about it. The 2 years masters has been really, really popular as well. So you see people wanting to come in now to do the 1 year and then the 1 year placement program, so which is really good. I think we've got about 20%. From the MBA team, for example, we've got about over 10% of the MBA students coming in February. They are going to be doing the 2 years master's MBA program, which is very good. So I'll tell you guys, those of you who are thinking of coming to do a master's program with us, look at our 1 year program, look at our 2 years master's program, which is the 1 year study and the 1 year placement program, and see which one you think fits better with your situation. But by all means, I think you're going to enjoy it. So
and that's timely as well, because Elahore's profiles on our social channels at the moment. Obviously, we've worked a lot with Elahore. I supervised the MBA dissertation, and she got involved with us with the International Citizen Student Show. But she was really successful in securing, a skilled worker visa, working in youth advocacy worker and communications lead for YMCA. So it's a massive success story for us there. But Elahore told me that had the 2 year option been available to her, she would have gone for that. But obviously it wasn't available then. It is now. But thankfully, she did secure that a fantastic job in the UK as well. So a really good example of one of our international students coming from abroad, doing the MBA, and then securing a really good role in the UK as well. A couple of questions coming in already here, Trevor, as well. Anik Peno was asking, is the second quiz coming up immediately after the last session or separately? I think we'll probably give it a few days after the last session, and then make sure you've had time to absorb, watch all the sessions, and then we'll put the second quiz after that, I think. But there's no rush on these quizzes. You should have plenty of time to complete them, so don't worry about that. But it'll come up a short time after the other session. And then Simran also, Trevor, is asking what the benefit of opting for the placement year along with the 1 year course will be. I don't know if you want to answer that one.
I think that the benefits are enormous because by the time you're able to get a placement year, it just gives you opportunity for you to be able to get experience. So for example, if you're doing an MBA program and an MBA 1 year placement along with that, you're just going to find, particularly for those of you who've not got that sort of rich work experience, or those of you really keen on getting a UK work experience. So that becomes the opportunity for you to be able to do that. It helps you, provides you more time to be able to expand your network. In terms of, we talk about social capital, your network is really important. Networking opportunities, experience, and again, you never know. Maybe where you've done that placement, it's also another opportunity. If you want to stay in the country, you might be able to also get a work job or employment from that process. So again, I think it's quite a good one if you decide to do that. So I think 1 year is good, it's great. So it depends on the time you've got in your hands. But I think if you don't have that experience, you want to be able to get experience, a UK work experience, then by all means, I'll tell you, all right, give it a thought. And I think it's something that'll be worth doing. And when I did my MBA myself, it was really because the MBA and other master's program, because of the time, 12 months, realistically is about 9 months, because you're going to have another 12 weeks where you're going to be doing your dissertation. So imagine you trying to cover all of that within 9 months. Whereas this one, you have the time of doing everything in a year, and then you have another year to yourself for the placement year. So I did my own MBA. When I did mine, it was just 12 months, and I didn't have all of that time. Again, it was still very successful. And I think whichever one you decide to do, so long as you're doing it with us, you've got the right people to support you, you've got everything in place. For those doing 1 year, they're still going to have, I think it's just about choice, and about your unique situation.
No, I'm excited about the 2 year option. It's been really popular in the market, and obviously there are a range of benefits to doing that. I do think it's a great option. Trevor, just in the interest of time, I think we'll just skip through that one. I think we know what the learning outcome is today, and we know obviously we've got our speaker Morven, who's raring to go in a second, and then obviously it's myself next week talking about digital transformation, but we'll come back to that point later. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce Professor Morven McEachern. So Morven is Professor of Sustainability and Social Marketing and Ethics in the Faculty of Science, Business and Enterprise. She's done a research and consultancy in the agri-food industry. She's got extensive experience in academia and is involved responsibility for sustainability research centres, teaching, learning, accreditation for responsible management education and doctoral research. And their areas of academic research revolve around the UN Sustainable Development Goals: 1, no poverty; 2, zero hunger; 3, good health and well-being; and 12, responsible production and consumption. I've worked with Morven for many years across 2 different institutions, so I'm very thrilled and excited that Morven's joined us today, and looking forward to your session, Morven. So without further ado, I'd like to hand over to you.
Thanks very much, Alex, and Happy New Year to everyone who's joined us this morning. Being Scottish, we wish people Happy New Year well into February and March sometimes, if we haven't seen you. So yeah, definitely no reason not to wish everyone a Happy New Year today. My task today is to give you a brief taster of the marketing discipline. And as an academic who's been around for quite a while, I have witnessed a lot of changes within the marketing discipline. So I don't have time to kind of go through all the aspects of marketing. So I am going to start right the very basics of marketing, talk a little bit about its role, why it's relevant, and the value that it offers to organizations. So that's what I want to sort of primarily get across today in terms of marketing. But if you have any questions at the end of that, I'd be more than happy to answer them. This just gives an outline of the main things that I want to sort of cover with you. So one of the things I find when I tell individuals outside of academia, what actually is it? What is it that marketers do? And typically, people who are not involved in the discipline, we still have that historical association that it's something to do with sales, that it's something to do with advertising, and of course, it's very much sort of broader than that. If we go back to kind of historical sort of definitions, the majority of those definitions, they do talk about that it's a process, that it helps identify, that it helps anticipate, and it helps supply a product or a service to customers at the same time of making a profit. If we look at the Association for Marketers, however, they also talk about this in terms of planning, executing, pricing, promotion, distribution, etc., etc. And this idea of creating exchange in some way, and of course satisfying both the customer and of course the organization. But I think increasingly more and more marketers are recognizing this idea around value, that marketing is a process of value exchange, and that value exchange also encompasses a social and managerial process by which individuals and organizations obtain what they need and want through creating and exchanging value with others. So quite a distinctive difference in terms of even explaining the definition of marketing. Now, this consumer value is also changed sort of over the years in terms of there's been a lot of emphasis around production historically within marketing, but this is increasingly changing. And we see whereby perhaps in the last century, a lot of that emphasis, because of focusing on production, the emphasis was around the value around price. And here, sort of, various entrants into the market would focus on providing basic products at very low prices and advertise the fact that they forgo extra features. Now, there's still many companies out there that do still have this at their focus in terms of value exchange. You know, our Aldi's, our Lidl's within the grocery sector, Ryanair, EasyJet within the airline sector are still very much companies whose primary area of competition is around price. Performance value is also sort of important here, where the emphasis is around being innovative, promoting aspects around quality. So, you know, in the car sector, for instance, your Mercedes, your Audi cars very much emphasize the added sort of innovations that they have over other car brands. But even in basic home goods, you know, such as Hoovers, vacuum cleaners, for instance, the Dyson really holds that kind of competitive advantage in terms of the performance attributes. When we think about luxury brands, however, the nature of customer value is very much focused on emotional value. And we see this particularly in the run-up to Christmas on our TVs, on our cinema screens, etc., where, you know, increasingly a lot of the ads that we're seeing is around luxury goods, particularly perfumes, aftershave, you know, so Chanel, Hugo Boss very much dominated our advertising in that run up to the sort of main gift buying time. And of course, branding and the brand image that goes along with that is very much positioned to generate that emotional value. Increasingly, when we think of the service sector, however, there's been a much more sort of increased emphasis around relational value, where if we think of companies who operate within sort of the insurance sector, education even, you know, if we think of the University of Chester recently winning the accolade of Chester Business School of the Year, you know, these are sort of areas of competition within the retrospective sectors that are able to generate this idea of offering a quality service and generating high levels of trust for customers. If we look at that and think about the nature of customer value that's offered, the key aspect for many organizations is that whatever aspect of value that you focus on, then we must exceed that of the competition. And this graph basically kind of indicates how that is managed. So our satisfaction as a customer basically depends on the performance, and our expectations are being met by that organization. So I mentioned at the beginning very much in terms of the definition that we focus on a process, that marketing is a process. And as you'll see here, one of the sort of basic models around creating value is generated in these 5 steps. So firstly, understanding the marketplace, understanding our consumer, designing a customer-driven marketing strategy, constructing a marketing program that delivers that superior value, build those relationships, create customer satisfaction and delight, and then capture that value from customers to help create profits and customer equity. Now, although the reference might appear quite dated, this hasn't moved on at all, and is very much still a core model of marketing management that's talked about across numerous business schools at the moment. And there are some limitations to this model of marketing, which we will briefly mention as we go through this presentation as well. But basically, in line with the definitions that I've spoken about earlier, the main thing is to think about who is our target market and can we design a marketing mix for that target market as well. So designing an effective target marketing mix. So if we think about the sort of, these are known as the 4 Ps basically. So we think about our product. Does it match the needs that customers have? So we think about things such as the features, the benefits of those products, the branding, the image that's projecting, even simple things such as the packaging around those products, and of course the after sales service. Price is self-explanatory. How much does this product cost? How much profit does it offer the company? Are we offering value for money? How competitive is it price-wise? And are there any incentives for customers? Place typically has to sort of match the sort of corporate resources there, thinking about access to the market, what our channel structures, how are those channels being managed, and of course having the logistic prowess to deliver these products to these markets. Promotion is probably the most common association with marketing, thinking about the comms mix. How is the product being advertised, or the service? How is it being promoted? What is the kind of PR that's involved? And how does that company engage with things like direct marketing and so on? Now, depending on what sort of articles you read, obviously academics have come up with numerous additional Ps, for example. The most common ones being the additional 3 Ps by Booms and Bittner in 1980 around people, processes, and physical evidence. And they tend to be for more service-oriented companies. So to give you an example, people within a service sector, if you think of education, again, our staff, our academics, the processes that are involved, how easy is it to sign up to courses, find out information about these courses, but also physical evidence for many organizations, the actual sort of buildings. So for education, our campuses, but for retailers as a service, thinking about the retail stores and what they look like as well. Now, this kind of marketing mix is very adequate in terms of mass marketing. But what we're also witnessing over the years is much more fragmentation within the marketplace for both products and services. And typically the marketing mix is very much sort of based around this one-way communication and ignores sort of relationship building. So again, there's a lot more emphasis now on co-creation of services, co-creation of products, and so on and so forth. But as I said, thinking about understanding your customer, how might you do that? With the basic sort of marketing understanding around consumer behaviour is that we have 2 schools of thought generally. The most dominant paradigm within consumer behaviour is known as the information processing approach, the IPA. And its roots is very much in cognitive psychology. And it sees consumption as this sort of rational process that we go through these certain steps. So you'll have heard of decision-making theory, for example, which is very much sort of an IPA approach. But an alternative paradigm to understanding consumer behaviour is consumer culture theory. And this is much newer in terms of how the marketing discipline has developed. And this views consumption as much less rational, much less conscious, and perceived more so as a kind of socio-cultural or experiential activity that is laden with emotion. And CCT research has tended to address 4 key theoretical domains, particularly around consumer identity, the culture of the marketplace, the socio-historic patterning of consumption, mass media mediated marketplace ideologies, and of course, consumer interpretive strategies. So it's certainly changed quite a lot sort of over the years. If we also think about the dimensions of consumer behavior, the kind of questions that we ask ourselves as marketers, who is important? Who is it that we want to speak to? And if we think about the buying process, there are numerous sort of textbooks out there. Blackwell, Minard, and Engel are one of the sort of key sort of consumer decision-making texts out there. And they talk about there being 5 roles in the buying process. The initiator, who starts off the process, the influencer, who persuades about the decision, the decider, who actually makes the choice, the buyer, and then the user as well. But other questions that marketers have to think about, well, how do they buy? What is the decision-making process? When do they buy? What type of involvement does the consumer have? Is timing an issue? Where do they buy? Do they buy online? Do they buy in the high street? And again, we're seeing, massive differences, which again have created another branch of marketing, the digital marketer. For example, if we think of the growth in this area of marketing, influencer platforms, companies are very much spending lots of money around promoting influencers. And actually, companies find that they're 5 more times more likely to purchase based on a recommendation from a social peer for their products. So it is important to kind of concentrate in this area of marketing, and also thinking about the sort of choice criteria of the customer. And we can see from this slide here, in terms of the influences, these can come down to either personal influences, social influences, and again, each of these areas that are highlighted here on this slide, there is a multitude of academic articles and research that accompanies how customers behave in relation to how they process information, in relation to their attitudes, their lifestyles, the life cycle stage, and of course, class, social peer groups, and culture as well. So again, this is a very popular area of marketing. But ultimately, we have to create a marketing strategy once we understand who our customers are. Often we have to divide those into smaller segments and target the particular segment that we want to. And as we see now, many of our companies will target specific generations. So our Gen Z, our Generation X, our baby boomers, our traditionalists, for example, are all ways in which we segment the market. Alternatively, they can be segmented by age, gender, family size, income, occupation, education, and so on and so forth. But typically, the company must sort of decide on the sort of proposition around value in order to target those customers and create value. So how this segmented sort of process looks like. So on the one hand, we have undifferentiated marketing, where we can target the whole market. There's very few companies. In fact, I was trying to think of an example when I was doing these slides. We very rarely, I mean, even something as basic, I think I used to use when I first started teaching marketing, thinking about services such as our electricity, our gas, but even now, our electricity and gas companies, there's also this emphasis on differentiation and segmentation. So we can buy the straightforward gas and electricity, or we can buy the green gas and electricity. So even water companies now, again, we can choose as customers. We have so much more choice as more and more companies are differentiating themselves within the marketplace. And also, as you can see from this slide here, I mean, there's this is sort of one way. They're called ACORN, and that stands for a classification of residential neighbourhoods. And you can see the sort of percentages of how many people account within these different categories. And you'll see numerous segmentation typologies that exist. So the affluent achievers, the rising prosperity segment, comfortable communities, financially stretched, and those experiencing urban adversity. So have a look at that website if you want to know a little bit more around segmentation, targeting, and positioning. But as I sort of showed here in the kind of designing a customer-driven marketing strategy. You'll see here in terms of the factors that are used to assess the company's ability to compete, and this kind of sort of forces the organization to think around, well, what is it that they are competing on? Do they have any marketing assets that they can exploit? Is it around technology? Is it around cost? Is it around staff and their capabilities? So again, this sort of brings another element to the process of exchanging customer value. So it's very much a whistle-stop tour, and I realise, you know, we haven't exhausted the complete variety of marketing topics here. And this slide basically highlights, you know, a number of theoretical and practical potentials of marketing as a discipline that you can focus on. But that's hopefully a little taster for you, and I'd be more than happy to try to answer any questions that you might have around marketing. Thank you.
That's amazing, Morven. Thank you so much. I've written down a lot of things that it always amazes me how much ground is covered in these taster sessions, even, you know, in a 15, 20 minutes. And I've written down a bunch of things actually. So whilst we're waiting for our audience as well to add any questions or comments, I don't know, Trevor, if you want to start us off, or you'd like me to start off with a question.
Yeah, I'm happy to start off. Thank you, Morven, for that very detailed presentation. Thank you. At least getting back on marketing. I was just going to ask, I'm looking at all of these that you've talked about now from marketing point of view, and I know you're a professor of sustainability as well. So where does sustainability come in all of these? You know, how as marketers, we know the sort of the way people tend to brand marketers or see marketers. So how can we be able to look at marketing from a sustainable point of view?
Of course, Trevor, and you know, and a good question. And I very much sort of tried to keep the presentation. I think I might have talked about social marketing and digital marketing. It's impossible not to kind of go down these different routes. But of course, given what I do as an academic, sustainable marketing is very much at the crux of everything that I research and teach about. But if we think of about the model of marketing management, everything within that, you know, the customer base has to be sustainable. It has to exist and be sustainable. There's no point in kind of targeting or identifying a market that is kind of going to be over with and done with, you know. And similarly and equally, I would say, you know, in terms of thinking about your positioning, your differentiation, that has to be sustainable. It has to be something that the company can continue to deliver in a sustainable way to deliver that high satisfaction for customers. So I think everything that marketers do has to be sustainable. It's at the heart of what they all do, and I think it would be careless for any organization out there who's coming into the marketplace not to acknowledge these elements around being sustainable in today's marketplace, particularly targeting younger consumers who are recognized as being much more ethical, much more concerned about the environment. And so having that kind of sustainable environmental conscientiousness around their products, around their services, that's extremely important too.
Thank you very much. And then one more question. When you were talking about value for customers, I know you did talk about customers. I think you had a slide, the model there around customer satisfaction and delighters. Do you just want to throw more light on that? The difference between being customers, I think it's on this one, yes. So maybe a bit around delighters and customer satisfaction. What's the difference between customer delight and customer satisfaction?
Yeah, I mean, this is a very basic slide, in terms of the 2 access points around whether satisfaction is fulfilled or unfulfilled, and obviously against the vertical axis around levels of satisfaction. So if customers are dissatisfied versus being, okay, that's good enough for me, as opposed to being delighted. And obviously the higher up the graph, the better and the more successful companies will be. There's a great adage in marketing, around satisfying customers, and in terms of word of mouth. We're very good at not saying, we tell a couple of people if we're satisfied with a company, but if we're not satisfied, we will tell up to at least 20 other people and make it widely known. And in the era of social media now, that is something that companies cannot afford to get wrong. And we see it time and time again. So rather than trying to contact a company, which we might have done maybe 10, 20 years ago, we would have tried to tell them, actually, I bought this product, but it wasn't, there was something wrong with it. We don't do that anymore. We go straight on to social media, and we say how unhappy we are with the service, with the product that we've just experienced. And that, good companies are on that right away, because the last thing they want is then another bunch of customers jumping on this bandwagon saying, me too, I've had this problem with this company. How do we get it sorted? And it's just not... It's not sustainable not to deal with these customers who are unsatisfied. So when we have companies have to do it better than what their competitors are doing as well. So yeah, this has been around. I think this 1994, which sounds a bit dated, but do you know what? It's not changed. It's not changed at all.
That's really time that we've got quite a few questions coming in now, and obviously my background's kind of social media marketing as well. And I think you've got examples of companies over time that have opted out to these things, like Dell tried to stay out of the social media landscape, but then customers set up their own channels like Dell Health and started. So it's those conversations are going to happen, aren't they, whether you like it or not? But just on that topic, Clinton's asking, would you say traditional marketing is more efficient than digital marketing in recent times?
Oh gosh, efficient. So cost-wise, I think digital marketing is probably much more efficient. If you think in terms of how many customers you can reach with an ad campaign, with influencers, that's definitely much more efficient if you think around the costs element. So I think now in today's environment, it's become much more integrated, digital marketing with traditional marketing. Many companies save on advertising promotion costs now as well. So I wouldn't say traditional marketing's more efficient.
No, you've got a slide here, Morven, about segmentation as well, though, because to a large extent, this is going to depend on the audience, isn't it? If many audiences now are online, they use social media, but not all. So
not all, definitely. If you're targeting
the channels, doesn't it?
Yeah, if you're targeting, and I'm not being ageist at all, but if you're targeting the elderly consumer, if you sell products, say around mobility, for example, the last place they're probably going to search is online. They want to go to a store. They want to sit in a wheelchair. They want to try a mobility scooter. They want to kind of have that physical store to access. So I would say that's one target market. But again, cars. I know there are many companies out there now who sell cars online. They don't have a sort of physical base where you can go along. But I think ultimately, clothing is another example. We want to feel the kind of the material that the clothing's made of. We want to kind of see it against us. And there are many ways AI's kind of tried to make that easier for us to do online. But I don't think the physical high street is and traditional sort of marketing tactics are finished just yet.
No, of course, if you target in a segment that doesn't really engage with technology, or perhaps even, I know, Morven, you're doing work in like rural Africa where there's no connectivity, then it's not efficient at all, is it? You've got to use some other means that it's whatever's the best way to reach that audience in a sort of efficient way, I guess, in the end.
Definitely.
Now then, Louise says, thanks, Morven, really interesting. One question, would you say the same basic principles of marketing apply to B2B activity?
Yeah, I mean, again, business to business. I mean, the two kind of directions. I know I'm a consumer behaviour researcher, so obviously I've spent a bit more time kind of talking about that rather than the elements. But if we go back to the slide on the customer driven sort of marketing strategy, where you have the kind of two arms really. So on the one hand, you have the organization, the B2B stuff. If they still have markets, they still have to segment the organizational market that they are targeting. So yes, the same principles still apply, but there are differences when it comes to the influences on that buyer. So I hesitate to say the exact same basic principles apply, but yes, they more or less they do. There are some differences, but yeah, more or less they do.
I think that's fair comment. The other thing about segmentation, I suppose, is developing personas, isn't it? And those personas. I mean, me as a persona in my personal life might be a different persona than in my professional life. So I suppose it depends. Again, whatever those audiences are, whatever those personas are, which channels are going to be appropriate to reach them in the end, isn't it? Again,
definitely.
So, but as you say, the basic principles are there. It's just how it's sort of exacted, isn't it?
Exactly. And if you look at the slide, the dimensions of customer behaviour, I use the word customer rather than consumer there, to sort of highlight that the customer can be an organisation. It's not necessarily an individual. So we still have to sort of ask these questions as an organisation. Who is it that's important here? If you think of if you were an organisation who were targeting the universities, I mean, we must be one of the worst institutionally to target, because we ultimately, individually, I mean, I don't know about you, but I'm always getting questions on LinkedIn. Can I talk to you about my new service? And I'm thinking, I don't have anything to do. Yes, I teach sustainability, I research sustainability, but I don't have a role for buying services linked to sustainability. So again, we still have to ask these questions from a marketing viewpoint, thinking, who do we need to talk to? How do these organizations buy their products, and so on and so forth? So yeah, the same principles do apply, but they do have differences.
That's a really interesting point about B2B, isn't it, with large organizations? I think there's a tendency, even from experienced marketers, to just directly send emails and messages to professors, to academic staff, and to associate deans like me. But quite often the services they're selling are purchased with a central service, and quite often we've already allocated a budget for that. So it's it's tricky, isn't it? I understand that kind of relationship marketing of reaching out, segmenting and reaching out to people, but I think there's perhaps a bit of a lack of understanding sometimes from some of these people about who actually makes the decisions in terms of the funnel. And I suppose they're quite often looking to us to introduce them to the right person, but then why would we do that if what's in it for us? Why if I spent all my time answering emails and talking to people about services that I may or may not need, then I wouldn't be able to do my day job. So I think there's a lack of understanding sometimes about B2B marketing as well, and particularly in large and complex organisations as well.
Yeah, definitely.
Now then, Simran is asking, hi Morven, could you share a few more examples on the emotional value, one of nature of customer value, and how that can be advantageous? So you mentioned emotional value, didn't you, earlier on? I did.
So I gave the examples, didn't I, in terms of sort of luxury brands in particular, and but I think maybe even music is a good example. If we think of music taps into emotion. If we think of those sort of products around that, which are able to kind of hook into the emotional sort of facets of how we make decisions. So quite often, as consumers, we can't explain why we like a piece of music, but we know we like the sound of it. We know that we like how it makes us feel, for example. And, you know, if we think of luxury brands, that is what they bank on. I mean, L'Oreal, to quote, you know, one of the most common marketing examples, you know, their strap line, for example, because you're worth it. You know, even just thinking around how they differentiate themselves compared to other competitors in this sector. It's about differentiating that emotional value. You are worth spending that extra couple of pounds more on their products because they're better, questionably. But you know, that's what they're trying to sort of tap into. So yes, I think that's how luxury products get us to spend those extra bucks, because they've made us, we have that perception that they're doing something better.
Yeah.
You know, quite often a lot of consumers make decisions about products to buy just purely on price, and there's this kind of well, if it's more expensive, it must be better. Yeah. As well. So they do. I mean, marketing. Sometimes we do have a sort of bad press for using sort of tactics such as that to make us think differently, when in actual fact there isn't any difference. I mean, that happens quite a lot with certain products as well. But if we're happy as customers, then it does make us feel better. You know, even with something simple like food, I've done quite a lot of research around organic food, for example, which of course has a price premium for many products. But again, this emotional value is added because customers feel that it's giving them something that they can't gain through buying traditionally produced foods, for example. So right across the board, that emotional value, again, is targeting our specific needs and wants through their products. And if we feel attached to that brand, we will always pay that additional price premium to buy those products.
Brilliant stuff. Now then, we've got 5 minutes left. So as always, I'd like to kind of, talking about future focus, just turn our attentions a little bit to where we think marketing might be going in the future. I know you mentioned earlier that with one of the models, this hasn't changed over time. And there's obviously certain things that don't change at all, and then certain things that do, and then perhaps other things that come around in loops. You know, when you've been doing these things for several decades, like fads come back again, don't they? So what in your view does the future hold over the next 3 to 5 years for marketing, do you think?
I would say, I mean, interestingly, one of the special issues that I did for the Journal of Marketing Management a few years back, I was responding. The special issue was designed because I was responding to a special issue that was about sustainable and ethical marketing.
Yeah.
And the kind of editorial in that original special issue was kind of talking about, is this a fad? Is this something that's going to come and go and be popular just now? And of course, I responded to it sort of 15 years later, saying this most definitely isn't a fad. And I would say, given the climate emergency, given the sustainability goals, particularly around net zero, et cetera, that this is going to become even more paramount for marketing in the next few years. So I would say this is where a lot of marketing research organizations within the marketing departments are going to be paying much more attention to communicating to their target customers.
Brilliant. Okay, thank you so much. That's I think that chimes well with what Juliana was saying as well, around kind of sustainability as well. So Yeah, so I think that's all from me, Trevor. Do you have any final thoughts from Morven before we start to wrap up?
Oh no, I think it was really detailed for me, and I think looking at this, I think Morven has touched on so many interesting things, from digital marketing, touched on AI, touched on sustainability. Again, all of these would be in terms of the future of marketing for me. So as a marketer, I agree completely with Morven on this. So thank you very
Fantastic.
much, Morven, for that, and thank you, audience, for those wonderful questions. Really good.
Absolutely. Yeah, thank you so much, Morven, and thank you, audience. A really, really interesting session as always. So, actions for you guys, for the audience. Make sure you've registered and get all the diary sessions. There's one final session next week, which is session 8, which is on digital transformation, and that's going to be with myself on the 15th of January at 10 a.m. Make sure you're following us on social media, LinkedIn, Facebook, YouTube. Take a look at Chester's other study options, undergraduate or postgraduate on Chester AC UK, and try and post to social media that you've joined the Chester Micro MBA as well. And like Trevor says, make use of the network and make value out of the Micro MBA. So any final thoughts, Trevor?
No, I just I'm looking forward to having all of you, if possible, attending the live session next week, where we're going to be putting Alex on the hot seat to do the delivery. So it will be interesting for you to join me, as we'll be hearing lots on digital transformation from Alex next week, Wednesday the 15th, 10 a.m. UK time.
Fantastic. Just a final word from our audience there. Simran saying thanks, Professor Morven, Alex, and Trevor for the coherent session. So that's fantastic. Okay, thank you, everybody, and we'll see you next week. Bye.
Bye, everyone.
Bye. Thank you.
And those of you in the UK, keep warm. All right. Bye.
Hey.